Tennessee beats Norfolk State. Zakai Zeigler is great again. Nobody loves Zakai Zeigler like the one, the only Caleb Calhoun. Why is he great again against Norfolk State?
He balled out. Zakai Zeigler had 17 points. He was 5 of 10 from 3 last night. Had 4 assists, 4 steals. Looks like he's fully healthy after the break. If you want to be encouraged about Brew McCoy, look at Zakai Zeigler and how he's come back. So yeah, he has balled out well. Dalton Knecht was the only one who scored double figures. He had 15 points. He was 6 of 6 from the free throw line. Dalton Knecht was. Tennessee is now 10-3. They are number 5 in the AP poll. By the way, they're still overrated, but they're number 5 in the AP poll.
Barnes gets some respect. I don't have a problem with that.
That's a big part of it. As a matter of fact, Dave, I wanted to talk a little broadly about Tennessee and Rick Barnes for a second. But they start SEC play on Saturday with a game at home against Ole Miss, who is still undefeated. They're the only undefeated team in the SEC right now. And so that'll be a game of undefeated Ole Miss at Tennessee. I think Ole Miss is a little overrated. I don't really think they've been that impressive all year. Their best win, I would want to say, is maybe at Temple or at home against Memphis. But
does Lane Kiffin hop on the plane and save a little bit of transfer portal travel expenditures by just hopping on the plane in Ole Miss and maybe recruit Tennessee's players right there during the game?
I mean, he would. Well, if he was, why he's going to get the helicopter back?
Oh, I love the helicopter.
Yeah.
It looked like they had to have like a 6-foot-tall shoehorn to get in that thing.
Who's wingman when they go out together? Lane Kiffin, Ed Orgeron. Who's the better wingman? Because you know what they're both going out trying to do.
Yeah, Joey Freshwater.
But could you imagine Ed Orgeron as your wingman, though?
Getting back to Tennessee basketball, I'm going to make this statement now in early January, and I'm going to make it in another month, and I'm going to make it in another month. And if I'm wrong, I want you to call me out on it. What makes this team different than other Rick Barnes teams is going to be, or already is, Dalton Knecht. Because if they are having trouble generating points, which they go through dry spells more often than the Sahara Desert, he's going to be able to generate them 6 to 8 points to keep them from going in the tank. That is the biggest difference when I've watched this game, or when I've watched this team and the games all this season. That to me is the biggest difference between them being a Final Four team and what they were last year and the year before and the year before, which wasn't.
So I actually can agree with you on that. I also think that even though he only had 4 points last night, Toby Awaka had 10 off the bench. I think Tennessee has 2 options now in Jonas Ado and Toby Awaka, where they have guys who can finally command respect under the basket. You know, something that Uros Plavšić never learned how to do. And I think that that's a big deal because, again, you need to be able to shoot the ball well from 3 also. And you can't do that if you're not commanding some level of attention underneath the basket. So I think that's a big thing. One of the things that's going to help Tennessee, one of the things that's really helped him, and I have to give Barnes credit for this for a long time since he's been at Tennessee. Dave, you want to know one of the most underrated moves by Tennessee hiring Rick Barnes that I never thought of?
Wait on me.
In college basketball, when you set your non-conference schedule, I always criticize coaches who schedule easy, but a lot of times they do that because they can't get other schools to agree to play them. And I think Rick Barnes is so well connected, he actually is able to get a lot of these marquee games in December and November that other coaches can't. And that's twofold. That helps Tennessee prepare for conference play, but it also, from a revenue standpoint, Dave, how underrated is it to get a lot of marquee games in November and December in basketball for fans to show up?
It's huge. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's tough to do. The scheduling part of it is tough to do. Yeah, I know Dalton Knecht struggled at times this year, but I just don't put much into December basketball because I think coaches and players are still finding their way and building chemistry because the rosters turnover so much from year to year. So I didn't put much into him struggling in December at times. Did you?
No, particularly this period of December, January. They went home for the holidays. I mean, it's kind of like bowl games now. You can tell when you're watching a bowl game when one team just decided to go home for Christmas, like mentally. And this is very obvious that teams are going home for the holidays. Also, Dalton Knecht was banged up for a while, so he's still getting his feet wet. Just the real question and concern, and no one's calling him out. He's dealing with the personal issue. But Santi Vescovi still hasn't returned to Vescovia form yet. And I mean, I don't want to. You don't want to personally attack the guy because of what he's dealing with, but you do want to say from an analytical standpoint for this team, you do need that. I mean, again, what Chris Lofton was dealing with in 2008, you didn't want to blame him, but there's no doubt that it cost Tennessee in the Sweet 16.
I mean,
didn't have that
two
extra
things
shooting
can be
option.
true. We can be very sympathetic for the loss of his grandmother, and he can be less ineffective because of his emotional reaction to that. It's not a knock on him. We all react. I mean, goodness gracious, we've all lost loved ones and we all react differently. But I don't think that, and I pray for him and his family and consolation losing his grandmother, but I don't think Tennessee's, just like I said with Knecht, I don't think they're a Final Four team or an Elite Eight team without Vescovi, and he's been somewhat MIA for good reason to this point.
He has, and we've seen that prove costly. I mean, what I remember the 2007-2008 team. You remember, Dave? Tennessee had everybody coming back, and they're adding Tyler Smith, and they were a point away from the Elite Eight the year before. Everybody's thinking this is a clear-cut Elite Eight Final Four team, and then Chris Lofton obviously is dealing with his issue, and it proved well. Here's a question because I just want to ask it on the message board, and I never like to do this. Tennessee or Detroit Pistons? Who wins, Dave?
It's always the pro team, right?
It's always the pro team, guys. It's always the pro team, but it's still kind of funny because Detroit is, I mean, the NBA tanking is great, man. The Sixers started this model a few years ago where you remember that, Dave, when the Sixers just held players out and faked injuries forever so they could load up on number 1 draft picks for years?
I do. Charles says, is our basketball team considered to be good? Yes, Tennessee's basketball team is 5th in the nation. And this is, I think, just seeing it in December, the best team that maybe Rick Barnes has put together.
I can't go there. I still think that 2019 team was better with Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield.
But all my guys could fall flat on their face in the coming weeks, and you'd be absolutely right. But just for now, I think they've got a higher ceiling.
But you are right. Here's the thing. Grant Williams was an inside scorer. You had to, you drew up plays for him. You drew up plays for the 3-point shooters in there. Dalton Knecht is the first player Rick Barnes has had where if the offense breaks down on a play, you just say, give him the ball and just see if he can generate a bucket. Tennessee's never really had that for a long time. So I think that could be useful for Tennessee. That Jonas Aidoo nor Toby Walker are on Grant Williams level in terms of that. And there are still questions on how well they are from 3. Here's the thing with Tennessee. And here's the thing with none of their shooters are elite outside of Vescovi, and Vescovi's healthy, but Vescovi's not healthy or not fully there. But here's the thing with Tennessee. None of their shooters are elite, but they're all good enough, Dave, where it would be shocking if at least one of them was not having a good game from outside. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you're going to be an outside shooting team, you're not usually depending on 1 or 2 guys like the Reggie Miller or Larry Bird days.
Yeah, you're not.
There's got to be more guys that can shoot than that. By the way, Vol Fan for Life says, I listened to Slay, and he said Norfolk is pretty good. By the way, Slay's going to be on the program tomorrow. We love visiting with him each and every Thursday. And so that's always a fantastic visit. A good time to get with Ron as Tennessee headed in to the SEC season. It's Ole Miss. Here we go. Let me ask you this. Given that the regular season doesn't mean a lot, the SEC tournament doesn't mean a lot, how many times does Tennessee play Auburn this year?
Tennessee plays Auburn, I believe, just once. I'm going to pull up the schedule again, but I believe it is only just once. That's not one of the regular rivals. Yes, they play Auburn once, and it's late in the year, February the 28th.
Do you think deep down most Tennessee fans would rather win the SEC postseason tournament or win the regular season or just beat Bruce Pearl by 40 points?
I don't think the vitriol's there for Bruce Pearl from Tennessee. I think Tennessee fans feel that Bruce Pearl was wrongly fired because Mike Hamilton should have stuck up for him. And there's a lot that went on to that, Dave. You know more than I do. I think Mike Hamilton did try to stick up for him, and there was just so many other things that happened, right? For a while.
He got caught lying for the second time.
Yeah. So, Mike Hamilton did, but I think Tennessee fans don't know the full details of that. So I don't think I think the problem is Pearl has been a thorn in Tennessee's side since he's been at Auburn. He cost Tennessee an SEC championship outright in 2018. He cost them a share of the regular season title in 2019, and he cost them the tournament title in 2019. So he's been a thorn in Tennessee's side. But I think at this point with Rick Barnes, you're just thinking about, honestly, you're just thinking about March. This isn't, quite honestly, I think Tennessee fans hate John Calipari more than they hate Bruce Pearl, because John Calipari, where has he been? He's at Kentucky now, but before then he was at Memphis, and in basketball, that was a great in-state rivalry. I mean, it was never better than when Bruce Pearl and John Calipari were in Tennessee and Memphis.